Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. What's happening? Just waiting for some people to show up. Yeah, I'm kind of on time today. How about that? Whoa, what a concept! Yes, my biology is changing. It's shifting. I'm actually getting more sleep at night. What a concept! Hi, Judy. Good morning. Top of the morning to you, Judy. Yeah, I'm getting more sleep. Wow. And for the most part, uninterrupted sleep. There's another mind blowing concept for you. And the rest of the day to me as well. Yes, absolutely. Meteorologically, it's looking like a very nice day here. We have some sunshine out there. The low hanging chemtrail fog has dissipated. So it is now safe to at least venture outside of your biodome so that you can interact with nature to the best of nature's ability to interact with you. Good morning, Paulette Hansen. Yes, planetary shutdown. Things are happening. We're going to get a nationwide address tonight from the Orange Man, the Big Cheeto, the Donald. And he's going to take his case to the American people as to why it's important for us to continue to have theoretically less services with the government and state his case for a border wall. Now, we're playing a bit of Russian roulette here with this thing because somebody's somebody's going to have to blink. And the Democrats, progressives, liberals, social Marxists, whatever they are at this point, they are not going to back down because they've got the numbers in the House, and everything that they've laid out as part of this plan is to defeat Trump and any Republican that resembles Trump. If it was a Bush-like Republican, they probably wouldn't. They probably wouldn't be so staunchly opposed to Trump. But there he is, and there they are, and they're going to go toe to toe. The other thing that's happening is hey, Jane P. Love. The other thing that's happening is the yellow vest thing is just not going away. I mean, it is not going away. And this kind of gets into the topic of today's show because, technically speaking, we do have a shutdown here. It's not a full shutdown. It's really a partial shutdown, but people are starting to have some challenges with some of the services now. I posted a story on Facebook yesterday that a store in Indiana, I believe Indianapolis, was having problems processing their EBT transactions. And so the way that I understand it is that the federal government has dispensations to the state, right? So the state has their programs, and the federal government dispenses funds to those programs, and the state manages those funds in terms of things like welfare or food stamps. These are federal programs that are managed by the states. So if a state is having an issue with their EBT system, it's because they're starting to not get their money from the federal government, or there is a glitch in their system. This could be very problematic, very, very problematic as we move forward. Hi, Shari. Very problematic as we move forward, because if you get a bunch of people that can't go to the grocery store and put a little plastic card into a machine and then walk out with their groceries, I think people are going to start to get quite upset about that. And that could pose some real problems in terms of just, boots on the ground sorts of situations. You get some angry people. And of course, there's going to be the political fallout and the blowback. Already, there was a letter from the pilots union that was sent to President Trump to basically tell him to end the shutdown so that we could fly safely through the friendly skies. Well, as far as I know, that hasn't been impacted yet. I don't believe that the air traffic controllers will stop their jobs because we have to have some level of commerce. TSA, on the other hand, is starting to have blue flu and sort of walk out. They could just keep walking, as far as I'm concerned. There are some nice people that work for TSA, but I'd say by and large, it is a kind of a metastasized tumor on the system. Hi, honey. And it came out of 9/11. I mean, the TSA didn't exist before 9/11. 9/11 gave birth to TSA and DHS. And DHS became this, Miss Pac-Man swallowing up all these, other pieces of the government and became this kind of, gargantuan entity inside the federal government. And TSA is its twin sister. It's twin. I don't know if it's a sister or not, but certainly it's a distended twin. So now we have these massive divisions or groups inside the government, these agencies that are laden with people and bureaucracy. And look at all the jobs it's created. Wow, okay. Anyway, TSAs, they're starting to not show up for work. It's going to get very interesting here, folks. Very, very interesting. I'm not sure what Trump is trying to accomplish by going to the public tonight to state his case as to why the shutdown is occurring and why we need a metal barrier between us and Mexico. It's really interesting. I have some friends who are, mostly liberal, but do have some conservative leanings. And I talk to them about this border thing. And they say it's a big joke and it's being used against us, more divide and conquer. Yeah, well, the wall is already there. The wall is the wall that separates people and families and groups inside of this country. It's an invisible wall. It's a wall built on ideologies. And that's a really big wall. But the bottom line is that we're not dealing with a situation that is run of the mill. It's not like, sort of migrational patterns from the 1980s. These are very, very different. And these are people that want to storm the gates and they're not even from Mexico. And I've been sharing some stuff with you that the people from Mexico in Tijuana, they're really upset that these people are there. They're messing with their lives, their routine. Yeah, they have lives. Believe it or not, there are people that live in Tijuana and they actually have lives there. Okay. They're not interested in coming to the United States. Maybe they pop back and forth. Who knows? I don't know. But they actually have lives there. They have their own version of their civilization in Tijuana. And this thing is like, it's kind of messing with their world in a really, really big way. Another thing that's come out of this with the border crisis is that there are a number of groups now who are doing these GoFundMe accounts and making a lot of money off of this border crisis that could go down and help these people out. I mean, so crisis is a cash cow, and it's been a cash cow for a while. Just ask the Red Cross. Stephen says the ideology of greed. So would a steal? Okay, so I just want to bring this up. I want to stay with this because I'll have really good friends and they'll say, oh, well, this is a terrible idea. And why is the shutdown happening? And I said, well, the shutdown is happening because Trump is being forced by his base to stick to his campaign promise. He even said this to Chuck Schumer, right? He basically said, I can't back down. So Schumer knows that maybe Trump's heart isn't totally into this. But Trump also knows that this is going to define his presidency. This is going to, whatever his presidency is, this is going to define his presidency. I was listening to Sean Hannity the other day. And I'm going to read Char's comment in a second. I was listening to Sean Hannity. I don't really listen to Sean Hannity. Jasper, you are being, hold on. Jasper's here. And he's doing things that that are not really acceptable. Do you want to say hi to everybody? Want to say hi to everybody? There he is. He's Jasper, the Astro Cat. Say hi. Yeah. See, I've elevated my my experience here. I'm ascending. I used to be sitting down. Now I'm standing up. I'm ascending. my next step is I'll be levitating over the computer and I'll be upside down. Anyway, I was listening to Hannity. Again, I'm not a Hannity guy, but one of the things he said that was, I thought, interesting was that Trump, and I've said this for a long time now, Trump is not your typical president, right? He's not. He's not your typical. He's a disruptor. That's what he is. He's a disruptor. Sun Uranus conjunction. He is a disruptor. Okay, that's what he's here to do. He's not here to, be like his predecessors. Obama, I wouldn't say Obama was a disruptor. I would say Obama was, what would I call Obama? An agent provocateur, maybe, but not a disruptor. So this is what Trump's role is, right? And it's exactly what he's doing. I don't really have a problem with it. I have a problem with his alliances, his allegiances, people he hires, people he brings into his administration. I have a problem that Jared Kushner has complete, total security access, and he's talking to Crown Prince Salman on a WhatsApp. And I'm going to talk about that today too, because that's starting to come back and it's going to bite Trump in the ass. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, so I was talking to this friend, getting back to my friend in California, and she basically was saying, and I love this woman, and I told her the reason why this is happening is because there is this commitment to his base because he can't go back on his word, right? And he had Ann Coulter. By the way, Ann Coulter really called Trump out, and after that on Twitter, and after that, Trump blocked Ann Coulter. He blocked her, but don't think that didn't impact him, because it was right after that he kind of took his stand. And so when I talk to people who are having a hard time with what's going on, I said, well, what would you want to open the borders? Just open the borders, just let everybody come through that wants to come through. And you know what I get? I get crickets. I get crickets. Oh, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be. I get crickets because nobody who wants. People will say that they don't want something, but they don't have a solution. Now, of course, my solution is, give people a better deal with where they're living, and that way they don't want to leave. So go build businesses, zero out the debt in some of these countries like Honduras or Belize or Guatemala or wherever, right? We still have some control before the Chinese come in and start to take control. Go in and help them rebuild their infrastructure. If you're going to take money, and throw it into a bill, whatever the bill is, go in and help these people out so that they don't want to leave. I mean, that's really the best thing to do, is create a better place for where they're living. Short of that, because we don't really have any foresight or vision in that direction or area, then you have to kind of stem the tide. Okay, and that's not to say that people here haven't contributed and haven't been generations of immigrants or migrants. Yes, the country is made up of them. Going back to my mother on her side, so like 2 or 3 ships after the Mayflower, right? They were migrants. So it's all part of it's all part of this, sort of polyglot that we're working on as an experiment. But there has to be like sort of controlled moments in the experiment, or else the experiment goes haywire. And I feel like this is where we are right now. And it's more than just this division that keeps people that have not gone through. Here's the deal. And I was thinking about this too, right? If somebody wants to be in this country, there is a process. And the process is actually an important one. Because by going through the process, naturalization is, you have to learn about the place you're going to. You have to learn about it. You have to learn about certain laws. You have to learn about how the government functions. Being informed and going through a process is part of assimilation, right? There are levels of assimilation. Assimilation is, well, you go to an area, you learn about the customs, you learn about, where the best place to get a coffee is, whatever, right? That's one version of assimilation. There's another level of assimilation that has to do with kind of a philosophical slash moral slash political version of assimilation. When you become naturalized, you learn about things. They ask you questions, right? You sit down and they ask you questions and you answer them, and hopefully you get the answers right, and they stamp your things and welcome to the United States of America. You know, long, long time ago when I was living in Oakland, California, I had this guy that lived in the apartment below me. He's from Senegal. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Great guy. And he used to come up to me for tarot readings in my apartment. He and his daughter and his buddy. And he was always asking me about his immigration process because he was very intent on getting this thing done and being, you know, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. This is in the 90s. And he was, you know, he wanted to be here. He wanted to go through the process. He didn't want to skirt any corner, right? He wanted to be in this place. And it was like, wow, you know, great. And I've seen video of people that are, you know, coming up to the border now and they're flipping people off and throwing shit. It's like, do we really want, you know, like if those people were coming to your house, would you let them in your house? Would you let them in your apartment? I wouldn't. You know, it's like they knock on your door. First of all, they pound on your door and they flip you the bird. Oh, hey, come on in. Let's sit down and, you know, have some tea and crumpets. No, you know, oh, Shari says I have an African Senegal. That's her bird. I've seen pictures of Shari's bird. Yeah, I mean, you don't let these people in. Yeah, but if they politely come up and say, hey, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. I'm new to the area. And I have a, I don't know, I have an apple pie here. Oh, great. Well, come on in. You know, let's talk about who you are. I mean, there's a protocol, and I've seen what's going on with some of the video at the border. Do you really want to let these people in? I'm sorry, I'm not being xenophobic. I'm very protective. I'm protective of people. That's, you know, I've got Mars and Cancer. I'm not sure we want these people flipping us off, you know, and coming into the country, you know. And of course, there are extreme versions where people have a harder life. This place offers them a better life. Well, okay, there's a due process for that. And in the meantime, it'd be great if we made their place better. Okay, that's part of the solution. That's not going to happen. Well, here we are. We're in the shutdown. Now, there's some very interesting developments that are taking place in Paris with the yellow vests. This is like next level stuff, okay? Because the yellow vests now are advocating that people pull their money out of banks in Paris or in France in general. How is this going to impact what's happening in France, in Paris, France, the rest of Western Europe? Because there is stuff going down in Western Europe. You got people in England that voted, on Brexit, and they want to get the hell out. And Theresa May is doddering and doddering and doddering, has been doddering for years now, basically putting the brakes on this thing and, you know, blocking any kind of, you know, real referendum that removes the UK from the EU. And that's what she was brought in to do. And that will be her legacy, and it will be a terrible legacy. And you ever look at these people? You ever look at the physical condition they're in? Have you ever looked at Theresa May's face? She looks horrible. She's got these big, you know, channel bags under her eyes. And yeah, she just looks horrible. I mean, how can a human like occupy their body when they're going through such, you know, just vile bullshit like that? Every single day they have to get up and perform a role and make sure that they're doing what their masters tell them to do, right? And how do they live? How do they live with themselves? This gets into the humans don't have any souls sort of, or some humans don't have any souls. She may not have a soul, but she looks like shit. Angela Merkel, another one. There are days Angela Merkel looks horrible, absolutely horrible. These are the ravages of having to deal with stuff that philosophically that you may not always agree with. Although maybe they do, I don't know, but they look horrible anyway. So what's going to happen with the yellow vests if they are able to convince the people of France to pull the money out of the banks? Well, business will start to grind even more to a halt in France. How will it impact other banks in Europe and even around the world? Will it be just a drop in the bucket, or will there be a ripple effect that will affect markets in other places? Now, just to give you the context of France's economy, it is at the same size and scale as Russia's. Okay. So either that says that France has a pretty good economy or that Russia has a pretty crappy economy. But in either way or either case, they're on equal ground and equal footing. Okay. So just file that away. Now, what happens if this actually takes hold and people in France do pull their money out of their banks? Well, what will happen with other countries in Western Europe where there seems to be some yellow vest traction? What happens if the people from Belgium pull their money out of their banks? And what happens if all of a sudden people in England say, "Fuck it, we're not getting out of Brexit. We're going to take our money out of the banks, and you guys can run your country without any money." What's going to happen then? Don't think that this won't be or can't be viral. We just came through an eclipse season, right? Or at least the beginning. We just started the eclipse season. We just came through the eclipse on Saturday, Sunday, and big energy. And remember, that South Node is in Capricorn, which means that these institutions are vulnerable. These Capricornian institutions are vulnerable. So theoretically, the entire government of France could shut down to the extent that people take their money out of the banks. Now, what will happen probably is that the Rothschilds who run all these banks will probably have to go in and backfill some of this money, some of this capital, and start to put it back into the banks so the banks aren't completely insolvent. But it's an interesting sort of dilemma and a crossroads that the yellow vest movement is at. And it's to some extent is kind of mirroring what's happening here with, the shutdown, which is being applied by Trump. And by the way, the other thing that's connected to the shutdown is Trump's Trump card, which is a state of emergency. And he could say that we are at risk with the border, and he's threatening to do it. And he was at Camp David, and either the clones got reset or they came up with a strategy. In which case, if there is a state of national emergency, how's that going to impact us? How's that going to impact our economy? Wall Street, banks, interest rates, et cetera. You don't know. You just don't know. So again, I don't want to sound. I don't want to be the canary in the coal mine. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to sound an alarm of fear and anxiety and apprehension. But you should probably cover your ass a little bit, because if there is a state of national emergency, we don't know where this is going to go, because we've never been here before. We've had 3 shutdowns. This is now we've had more than 3, but this is now the 3rd longest shutdown in the history of the country. And it's partial. Some people are still getting paid, and everything on some level is going okay, right? But they're starting every day. There's a little more crack, a little more crack, a little more fissure. And if we're still in this place, 30 days, 60 days from now, it will probably begin to rival the 2nd and 1st longest shutdown, and ultimately become the longest shutdown in history. But it's the state of emergency that's got my attention. So again, you just may want to just check and see what you've got on hand, what you've got on stock. Do you have 30 days worth of food and water? Bottom line, do you have electricity that you can plug into a generator? Do you have candles? Do you have some alternative currency form? And these are all things that I think anybody with any semblance of sort of self-preservation would have. And I would urge you just to not freak out and not panic, but just make sure you just check some of those boxes. So if the shit does hit the fan, that you can, hang out for a while. I mean, literally hang out for a while. And if you're in a situation where, you're paying rent or mortgage, it would be great if you could have at least 3 months worth of rent or mortgage money on hand. So, you could just go pay it and not have to deal with it, because, a lot of cases, these things will continue to cycle, and you'll still have to make payments on things. So, if things shut down, they're not going to say, "Oh, hey, it's a shutdown. Don't worry about it. We'll catch up with you when it's over." You think that's going to happen? Hell no. You're going to have to pay for shit still, right? So you just want to make sure you got a little bit of something, something, something on hand. It's really important. So we're at a very interesting point now. We've just come through this eclipse. Now remember, the eclipse energies tend to last. They don't. It's just like the people say, "Well, nothing happened." Well, things are happening, right? It is the lingering effect of the eclipse, and it is that south node in Capricorn, and we're seeing the vulnerability of these institutions, right? The vulnerability of the institutions. And it's going to be very interesting to sit back and watch how this thing unfolds. I'm going to watch Trump tonight. And of course, I'll watch the fallout from it all because that's always going to happen. There's always going to be fallout with Trump. Um, he just hired a new secretary of the interior, right? There was this cowboy guy from the Dakotas, the guy that got bounced because he was, being an asshole and had his private account and everything. So I love these hires. So Trump just hired this woman. She's black, African American. She's a woman. Hey, great. She used to work for Monsanto. Okay, so he got like somebody who was on the board, in management at Monsanto now to come in and take over that job. And I saw this page on Facebook, Queen of the Sun, which is the filmmaker who did the movie Queen of the Sun, which is all about the bees and bee extinction, which is a great documentary, by the way. And he was talking about how, well, they've got Monsanto, and Monsanto's been in the house for, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not rubber stamping it, but let's be clear. And they've got the talent pool that they pull from, and it's about 3 or 4 companies, and they plucked her. So now they've got somebody who worked for Monsanto, but she's an African American and a woman. So it's a weird thing, right? Kind of like cancels each other out. I want to get to Erdogan and what's happening in Turkey, but before I do, I wanted to talk a little bit about. I talked about this yesterday. The death of Jasmine Barnes, the young girl, the 7-year-old girl in Houston, and I was talking about this yesterday, and how there wasn't the same amount of Sturm und Drang that was sort of swirling around these events in 2014 and 15. So there was kind of a bit of a groundswell, or there was some, how do I say this, some friction that was taking place on the streets of Houston and on the internet. There's a guy by the name of Shaun King who who is kind of like he's like the internet or the Twitter's version of an ambulance chaser. Anything that's race oriented, he's going to go after it, right? And the funny thing about Shaun King is that he's not even black. He pretends to be black. And if you look at his photos of his father and his mother and his brother and his elementary school photo, he's as white as me, right? But he somehow managed to craft this, black persona and black look and really go after, racists, right? That's his big thing. And so Shaun King, hit this Jasmine Barnes thing really hard. And there was a sketch of this guy who they claimed to be a racist, and he went hog wild after him. It turns out, the guy was white, and he had nothing to do with what. I mean, who knows? Maybe he was a racist. I don't know. I don't know the guy, but clearly he didn't wind up killing this little girl. No, it was 2 other people, 2 other dudes, and let's just say they weren't white, okay? But this Shaun King guy was on the ground. He was offering $25,000, sort of reward or bounty for the name of the killer. And now he claims that because he got involved, that the Houston PD and the Houston Sheriff's Department actually found the killer, the real killer, thanks to him, right? But no, really, he's redirecting and redefining the narrative. What he was really doing is he was besmirching a person's name. And this is where we are in sort of the age of vigilante Twitter and internet justice. This guy went out and basically said, this is the guy. And they targeted the guy. And now his family is saying, leave us alone. We have nothing to do with this. Okay. Shaun King for who knows how long, has ruined this man's life. Okay, ruined it because he went hog ass wild and wanted to fit somebody or something into a narrative that he was pushing, right? That's not flying now. That's not working anymore. Okay. The reason why it's not working anymore is because there are no longer people in power that will support that false narrative. And the media is not supporting that false narrative as much either. So it fell flat on his face. And now what do we hear from Shaun King? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. He's evaporated. And you should see the backlash on Twitter. And it's not just, quote unquote, white folk who are pissed off at Shaun King. There are people from his own community who are angry with him. And not only that, but he raised a bunch of money. He raised a bunch of money on GoFundMe. So for this to find this killer, where's that money going? I bet you he's going to pocket that money. And he's got a history of doing this. There was a woman who said that she was groped and sexually harassed by a cop. And of course, that was not true. But in the meantime, he raised a bunch of money for that. So this guy is, he's kind of a, he's, what do they call him? A slip and fall artist in some ways. Anyway, I just wanted to follow up on that because there, he was in there and he was trying to get some traction with this. And, it's an unfortunate truth, right? The truth prevailed. The unfortunate truth is that the other girl got killed, and the people that killed her were from her own community. Okay, that's the unfortunate truth. So the lesson here is that there is such a thing as truth, and even though we have to navigate through the fog of illusion, through this world and through our lives at times, the truth will prevail. It will prevail ultimately. Ultimately, will prevail. May not be in our time, may not even be in our children's time, but the truth will prevail. And it happens in everyday life. So, and this is a lesson, I got to walk that line. Everybody's got to walk that line. And if you get off that line, man, you're on a slippery slope. And we got Jupiter and Sagittarius. There is great reward in truth right now, right? That's a Jupiter and Sagittarius moment. And it's like, okay, well, your bullshit narrative that you want to fit on this situation so you can raise a bunch of money and continue your divide and conquer, you being an agent of divide and conquer strategies. Well, that's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. And here's the other deal, right? It's like if we can't, and again, I just use my own life as a litmus. But if we can practice truth in our own lives, guess what happens? We become stronger. And as we become stronger, this whole notion and concept of truth as an energy, as a field, begins to get stronger. Hello? That's what happens. And so we have a responsibility. People say, well, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, you've got to basically walk your talk and practice what you preach. And if you're going to live by and through truth, you have to be an embodiment of it. And that is a really, really challenging exercise. Trust me. Trust me. It is a challenging one. But it's one that ultimately, if we're going to live a life that has meaning and purpose, that we got to walk it. Okay. And if we don't walk it, we'll get knocked on our ass. And what happens is that there are people in this world who don't live a life of truth, and they're by and large indemnified by the powers that are supporting whatever it is they're doing in the world to either deflate, distract, deflect, or redirect any sort of truth, right? So that's people who are agents of illusion and lies. And they're indemnified because there's a network of that. And that's kind of what we're up against, to be honest with you. So if you want to make a difference, just got to be real with yourself, be real. Try to do your best to, live with the light of truth within you. There's your philosophical segment for today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Erdogan. This is getting very, very interesting. John Bolton has said, oh, we're not leaving Syria. No. He goes to Israel. Bibi, no, Bibi. We're not leaving. I promise. That Donald, he's crazy. He's crazy. Come on now. Trust me, right? I'm your guy. I'm your guy. We're not leaving. Okay? The big Cheeto. Come on. We got this under control, baby. We got this. All right? You trust me. You trust me. Then he says basically, we're not leaving Syria. Oh no, we're not leaving there yet. And by the way, we're not going to abandon the Kurds. No, we're not going to abandon the Kurds. Well, there was a deal that was done with Mr. Erdogan by our president because I'm telling you, man, this guy's got the goods on Trump and particularly Jared Kushner. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. This is from RT Today. And this is the headline is RT.com. Bolton made a serious mistake. Ankara won't swallow his comments on Syria's Kurds. Erdogan. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton has made a huge mistake, naming Ankara security guarantees for Kurds a precondition for U.S. pullout from Syria. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said. The Turkish leader unleashed a bitter verbal attack on Bolton while speaking before the country's ruling parliamentary group on Tuesday. It is not possible for us to accept and swallow Bolton's statements made in Israel, Erdogan said. Bolton is making a huge mistake. His statement is unacceptable. Erdogan's remarks referred to the U.S. National Security Advisor's statement made on Monday. Bolton revealed that the U.S. President Donald Trump told him he would not allow Turkey to kill the Kurds. We don't think the Turks ought to undertake military action that's not fully coordinated with and agreed to by the United States. At a minimum, so they don't endanger our troops, but also so that they meet our president's requirement that the Syrian opposition forces that have fought with us are not endangered, he said. The Syrian opposition forces that have fought with us, they aren't endangered. These are the people that want to take out Bashar Assad. These are the people that we backed. And these are the people who have had their asses kicked again and again and again. The Turkish leader, on his part, stated that Ankara seeks only to kill terrorists while actually protecting its Kurdish brothers in the neighboring country. Those who spread the lie that Turkey is killing Kurds in Syria are trying to manipulate the international community's opinion, Erdogan stressed. Ankara regards Syria's Kurdish-led militia, also known as the People's Protection Units, or the YPG, as an offshoot of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. The party's militants have been waging an insurgency in Turkey's southeast since the 1980s. The prolonged fight with the Islamic State, IS, formerly ISIS, supported by the US-led coalition, was actually a huge lie. Erdogan claimed vowing to launch a genuine operation against terrorists in Syria in the near future. So we're staring down now Erdogan being pissed off because John Bolton went to Israel and basically said, we're not pulling out. We're not. We got your back, baby. And by the way, we're going to protect those Kurds, which basically invalidates everything that Trump has said about getting out of Syria, right? That's how this game works. I mean, John Bolton is a dyed-in-the-wool freaking neocon from the Bush administration. Have you noticed that slowly but surely the Bush administration has just crept into the Trump administration? I mean, more and more Bush people are showing up now, right? I mean, I know that Kavanaugh isn't really inside the administration. That he's a judge, a Supreme Court justice, but man, he is tied to the nuts with the Bush family. I mean, literally, right? I mean, his wife was, personal assistant, and, man, to the Bushes, and he's literally tied to the nuts with that family. So he's there, and then the new guy, who's going to be theoretically the next Attorney General, what's his name? William Parr, James Parr. Anyway, that guy, he's a total Bush fixer. So slowly but surely, more and more Bushites are showing up inside the Trump administration, and Bolton clearly was one of them too. I kick John Bolton to the curb, man. That guy's bad news. He's a war hawk. Died in the World War hockey. I had this little moment on Twitter yesterday, and it was on one of these Cernovich tweets, and I basically said, like it had to do with this Tlaib, this Rachel Tlaib, and of course they're going over what she said and what she stands for, and I basically said, look, I'm not really comfortable with having to choose between neoconism and neoliberalism, right? Like, so nationalism has been tied to the waist with Zionism, and neoliberalism or progressivism is now tied to the waist with social Marxism, and this is the way these things have been sort of, basically pulled out and distilled into these two camps. And if you're going to be a nationalist, well, it's almost a default that you got to be a Zionist. But if you don't support, say, what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinian people, right, then all of a sudden now you're neoliberal and you're progressive and you're social Marxist. And I say bullshit on all of that stuff. It's like, why do we have to choose? Why do we have to align ourselves with these two options that aren't options at all, or in basic controlled opposition, and the same people are running both camps? And that's how the game is set up. And I got a little bit of traction from that on Twitter. A little bit, not much. But it's like, people, wake up, The whole nationalism thing is kind of interesting on some level, because at least it's not, the one version of the one world government and social Marxism. But the way that it's been set up now, it's like, the headquarters for nationalism is in freaking Tel Aviv, soon to be Jerusalem, right? It's like, I'm not interested in that, I'm not interested. And if I was another country, like, this guy, Bolsonaro, Jair Bolsonaro from Brazil, he's like totally tied into Bibi and the Zionist regime that's running Israel, right? He's totally like, okay, man, we're bros. And so his version of nationalism is sort of connected to their version of nationalism. So you see what's happening here? There's like this network that's taking place. I'm not down with that. It's like, find your own version, man. Find your own legs to stand on. You can't really, because there's a lot of power involved, a lot of internecine relationships and connections that allow people to move into positions and circles of power so that they can run a country, right? You just don't get there by accident. No, you don't. Let's check in and see what's going on in the chat room. What do we got here? Let's see. Let's go all the way back. Justice is here. Good morning. There's Steve and Chris. EU sounds a lot like you. Yeah, if you see the picture of this guy from the AFP, the AFP is this new party that is taking on Merkel and the globalists inside of Germany. There was an assassination attempt on this guy's life, and the pictures are absolutely graphic. It's like somebody, he's got like this big gash in his head, so somebody does not like what's going on in Germany, man. They want this dude out. And so we're starting to play for keeps now. Okay, this is kind of where the game is going. When you see stuff like that, we're starting to play for keeps. They're like, dude, this isn't a joke anymore. It's not a joke. We don't like opposition. This is what happens to the opposition. And of course, that photo is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. What else do we have? Last year, 2,000 people were killed in Tijuana. Everyone in some way suffers from cartel, corrupt government, on drugs, arms, trust. Yes, absolutely. I agree. But I think it's interesting that even the people in Tijuana that have gone through that, they have enough of their own kind of like, life and civic license that, they don't like what's going on. So they may be living in hell, but a new version of hell has been introduced to them. And like, okay, we've got our own version of hell, but this version of hell we don't agree with. We don't consent to, right? It's interesting. Humans are fascinating. Haven't we been technically under a state of emergency since Nixon? Well, I think so. Absolutely, we have. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure we have. And I think even post 9/11, there's like another level of that. It's like double secret probation. Martial law is a little more serious. Can't believe that Shaun King is still around. So I know, right? I mean, come on. This guy has been He's been proven to be an utter fraud. And anybody that gives money to this guy needs to have their head examined. I mean, he should just be completely like, you know, shunned out of existence. I'm sorry, he's not providing anything. American people have lived under various executive orders, called martial law, civil war. Kind of says it all, doesn't that? Yes, the ripple effect. Paula says, I think the underbelly of GoFundMe is a payoff scheme such as Christine Blasey Ford, $1 million for non-existing legal fees. Yeah, I'm running a GoFundMe right now. It's for our initiative here in Fredericksburg to get the fluoride out of the water. And it's a legit GoFundMe, okay? And if you feel like you want to actually contribute to a legit GoFundMe, go to cleanwaterfred.com. That's the website, cleanwaterfred.com. We got a GoFundMe page, and things are going to start to get hot and heavy here. We're going to need to take out ads in the newspaper because we're going to have to take on dentists and people that are entrenched in this town. So if you actually want to contribute to a GoFundMe page where your money will actually be used for something, go to that one, okay? That's just my pitch. Let's see, the thing, Bolsonaro advisors kind of like Zionist neocon. Yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. There are many Zionists in Brazil whose descendants hail from Belgium. There you go. What else? Bolsonaro's, yes. Couldn't agree more, Robert. Damn, I'm trying to tune in, but the video just keeps loading. My Wi-Fi sucks. I hear they have better Wi-Fi in Australia, Joe. Down under. You know, the Wi-Fi in the other direction down under. Did you know that? It's true. Let's see. Paul says MSM has the public confused. That's the difference between Jews and Zionists. I would say that that's pretty true, right? That's really pretty true. I mean, it's a really interesting world when you get into the JQ and that whole thing. Man, you can't even approach it. You can't even mention. You can't even really talk about it. You know. You know, and I think I think we have to talk about it, to be honest with you. I mean, clearly we have to talk about it from lobbying groups like AIPAC, and a lot of these NGOs that are set up. You know, one of the things that was very clear that there's this BDS movement that's taking place. People want to divest, boycott, strike against these Israeli investments on college campuses and states around the country. Well, they don't like that, right? They don't like that. So one of the things that I saw was a really interesting documentary was how these kids in Davis, California, you know, got into the student union. A lot of them were, you know, they were of Arabic descent. You know, they had some skin in the game, and they wanted to divest. And they wound up getting into the student government. They led this sort of coalition to divest the schools. And by the way, Davis is a huge agricultural school. And that sent a red alert to sort of these lobbying groups, these Israeli lobbying groups. And man, were they deployed and they were dispatched and they went in and they handled this thing, right? So it's really interesting to watch what's going on. And look, I'm of the mindset where it could be any country. I don't care. And I've said this before. It could be Kenya. It could be Lesotho. It could be, Malaysia. Right? But it's like, let's divest ourselves from these foreign entities, whatever they are, so that we can bring our energy in and sort of clean up our own house and deal with things from a much more centralized perspective. I don't care who they are. That's just my philosophy. I'm not a globalist. I'm not. Do I believe in sort of this global community of humanity and we're all connected by one spirit and one light and one love? By and large, yes, I am. And, and I deal with and treat people on a person-to-person basis, right? I try not to assign value to groups. You assign a value to groups, it can become quite dangerous. However, that said, we are looking at ideologies and philosophies and political affiliations, in which case I think it's open season and we get to get in there and dissect them and talk about them because they impact our lives. That's my stance. Okay. Hey, what's going on, Charles? What's happening, Max? Pilot Rock. I live in southern Mexico. There was not a caravan of Guatemalans heading anywhere in Mexico. They magically showed up in the Baja area. That's very interesting. All this needs proper placement. It's government BS. That's very, very interesting that they showed up there. You're not the only person that said that, Palette. But they're there, right? They're there. So what does all that mean? And they're causing issues and causing, it's like I get these videos of people. I get them sent to me from Letitia and on Facebook, and she's like really invested in this. She lives in Arizona, and it's anyway. It'd be great if we had some real news. It's very hard to get to. I do my best to give you the uncut, unfiltered version. Of course, I am a filter myself in my own way. What else? Anything else we got going on? There's a lot going on right now. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Trump. What else? Okay. I think 5G. I'm going to do another show on 5G because that's a big deal. And if I've got an invitation out on Friday for a guest, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to do a show on 5G, and we're going to get into 5G world on Friday because I think that's really the big ticket item is 5G. Everything else is pretty much a distraction, even though we have to deal with it, right? 5G, green cities, Agenda 21. That's it. Oh, by the way, this is a little humor. This is a really, really interesting little bit of humor. So, they have the Consumer Electronics Show, CES in Las Vegas. Apparently, a self-driving car hit a robot. Like it was like there was something going on there. I don't know the full extent of the story, but the self-driving car hit a robot. And I just thought, isn't that interesting? That's I would have loved to have been there to watch that. Very interesting. Okay, hey, I'm out of here. All right, 15 minutes. I should call this 50 minutes of flame instead of 15, but 15 just has a better ring to it. I'll be back tomorrow, and you go to my website, robertphoenix.com. Of course, if you're interested in an astrology reading, I have a new post up on the site from Murray Hill, who lives down in New Zealand. And it's a really good post on Capricorn and the ancient symbolism of the fish goat. So you can go to my website and check that out. And I've got one more piece. It's a trilogy that Murray has put together, and I'll have the other one up in a couple of days. Okay. Robert Bonomo. Right. Robert and I haven't talked to Robert for a while. We usually have, little Skype sessions where we text each other. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I'll see what he's up to. I'll see what Robert's up to. Okay. Use your head. Oh, by the way, speaking of media, I will be with Freeman. I'll be on Freeman TV on Thursday, and I'll be hanging out with Freeman. And I'm not sure when Freeman will air that show, probably sometime next week. So you get to see me and Freeman sort of kick it up and synthesize and alchemize and do 2 hours worth of media together. I'm really looking forward to that. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to save when it's possible. From the Al and me, this is Robert Phoenix, and you've been listening and watching 15 Minutes of Flame. Have a great day.